Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. How was your first week back in the daily grind here in 2019? I'm conscious we have people listening to this podcast all over the world, speaking a variety of languages, but I got a feeling every single person felt that same feeling of dread entering back into the workplace. But after a few hours, it soon disappears, doesn't it? Now, today, I want to talk about another problem that each and every one of us have experienced. No, not that one. That's for another show. Take your mind out of the gutter. Seriously though, have you ever waited patiently, hitting F5 on multiple browsers, just trying to secure your place in line and get tickets to your favourite band or artists? And then within 5 minutes, you get a "sorry, we're sold out" message, followed by third-party sellers selling those same tickets for £300 to £500. I thought so. Now, the only difference here is rather than complain about it like you and I, today's guest went out there and did something about it. Richard Davies is the CEO and founder of Twickets, which is a tech startup fighting back against those ticket scalpers. And he has a truly impressive background in both the digital and music industry. And he actually launched Twickets after successfully launching and selling 2 companies. In 1994, Richard formed one of the UK's first digital agencies, Good Technology, which was acquired by WPP, and he then co-founded Crunch, Europe's first music download service, with AOL, remember them, and emusic.com as investors, which was then sold to Music Choice. And in 2005, Richard set up mobile application and commerce specialist Future Platforms, which is still independently owned, but now run by a separate management team. He's got such a rich history in this field, so I invited him on the show today to talk about and share advice with us all on how to successfully grow and exit companies, and also talk much more about how he's actually building trust in the ticket business through Twickets. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to London so we can talk with Richard Davies, CEO and founder of Twickets. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'm Richard Davies. I'm the founder of a company called Twickets. Twickets is a ticket resale marketplace, and we work in music, comedy, sport, theatre and the arts, enabling fans to buy and sell tickets that they can no longer use, but at the original face value of the ticket.
First of all, I'm a huge fan of Twickets and I love what you guys are doing. But can you set the scene a little and bring the listeners up to speed with exactly what it is and how it's tackling a problem that I think every music fan listening to this podcast today would have experienced at some point?
Yeah, well, thanks very much, obviously, for the kind words. And what we're trying to tackle really is what's now become known as the secondary ticketing market, where platforms will sell tickets via essentially brokers. Professional brokers trading on their platforms for profit. So they will hoover up tickets, as many tickets as they can at the on sale. So when the tickets first go out to fans, they will actually, using bots and using other techniques, grab as many tickets as they can and push them straight back onto the secondary market at a profit. So fans are losing out, but also, interestingly enough, that the event is losing as well from that activity. So we're here to provide an alternative method of trading tickets, which, as I said earlier, is at the original face value of the ticket.
You've worked in the music and digital industries for over 20 years and most recently founded Twickets, which is, like you said, an ethical resale marketplace that enables plans all around the world to trade tickets for no more than their original face value. But I've got to ask, where did the idea of Twickets come from and what put you on this path? And also, what made you want to tackle the problem head on?
Well, the catalyst really was exactly that, really, was actually trying to get hold of a ticket myself for a show that was sold out. And yet they were priced at 2, 3, 4 times their original cost on a secondary platform. And I thought, well, there must be another way of actually getting hold of a ticket. So I actually went onto Twitter. I did a search on Twitter looking for spare tickets for someone that couldn't make the show. It was actually a Licky Lee gig and it was in London. and I found someone who was selling tickets because they could no longer make it due to illness, and they were selling them at the original price they'd paid for them. So I thought, wow, that's interesting. Maybe Twitter is a mechanism through which tickets can be traded as opposed to the secondary platforms. So after a bit of research and a lot of thinking, we launched Twickets, hence the name, on Twitter as a aggregator really of all that inventory. So we enable people to list tickets through us and our Twitter account, and invited people to follow us to purchase tickets directly from the owner on Twitter again.
I'm curious, as someone that buys a lot of concert tickets online and had a little experience of what goes on behind the scenes with some pretty big on sales at the Ticket Factory, who I believe you've partnered with too, are there any common myths in the ticket industry that we can finally lay to rest today? And also, what are the biggest differences between ticketing in the US and the UK?
Yeah, well, I think that there is one key myth we could put to bed, and that is that fans buy tickets to make money. I think, yes, there are certain fans that will do that, and as I mentioned earlier, there are some that will do it professionally and make quite a lot of money out of doing so as well. But the vast majority of fans, as we found out over the last 4 to 5 years of operating now, buy tickets to actually attend the event in the first place. And if for whatever reason they can no longer attend that event, then they're not looking to make money out of that ticket. They want their money back, of course, and they want to make sure they've not lost out in that purchase. But once they've got their money, they're happy to cover their costs. And ideally what they want is for the ticket to also go to another fan, so that someone who's obviously a genuine fan is attending in their place and not selling to somebody else that's going to broker that ticket as well and make money out of it. So that's the first myth. I think the second myth is that all artists and musicians and events are involved in this process of resale at profit as well. Well, I think we're living proof that they're not, because we've partnered now with over 250 artists over the last few years who have made us their official resale platform because they want to encourage fans to trade at face value. And the reason for that is obviously that they want to ensure their fans aren't ripped off, but also the industry itself is losing money when a broker trades a ticket for profit, because that means the fan can see less shows going forwards. They're less likely to spend money on merchandise when they're at the show. They're less likely to spend money on food and beverage at the show. So everybody's losing out. The only person that's gaining is the broker. So those are the two key myths I think we can put to bed, is that fans don't buy tickets to make money on the whole, and certainly events are not involved in this process either. The people that benefit from it are the brokers and the platforms through which they trade only. It's pretty universal, to be honest. What we're seeing, having operated now in numerous territories, I mean, we're now in not only in Europe but also North America and Australasia, is that the process is the same everywhere, and the issues are the same everywhere. So brokers trading on the secondary market, scalping people who are desperate to see an event for huge sums of money, goes on across the world. So that problem needs tackling, and hopefully we're helping to tackle it.
The ticket industry is notoriously competitive, with just a handful of agents and promoters running the entire show. But what kind of challenges have you faced early on, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I think that really what's helped tremendously is building an audience and showing that this is what fans want. And I think then agents and promoters and some saw what we were achieving and saw that actually there was a viable alternative to the secondary market. A market, as I said earlier, is harming them as well. And as a result of that, as a result of the successes we were having, they've actually increasingly now partnered with us. So rather than having them block our service or stop us from operating, they actually now support it. And that, I suppose, was a bit of a surprise. We weren't quite sure how they would take to us as a platform. But I'm delighted to say that on the vast majority of cases now, we're working with the major promoters, the major agents, right across the world.
Twickets was founded with a mission to create a fairer way for fans to see their favourite artists. But can you tell the listeners a little bit more about how it has actually saved fans over $10 million? And it is endorsed by some of the biggest artists in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, there's been a lot of artists that have supported us and worked with us over the years, and notable ones would obviously be Ed Sheeran, who just recently undertook the biggest tour in the world. to date. We work with Adele, we work with the Foo Fighters, we work with One Direction on their farewell shows as well. So we've worked on some pretty big tours globally now, and we've sold hundreds of thousands of tickets to fans, from fans to other fans as a result of that activity. And by selling those tickets at face value, as opposed to an inflated price, which can often be 5 to 10 times the original value, we have saved fans millions of dollars. And we continue to do so, and our ambitions remain the same, that we want to see fans get a fair price on their ticket.
I'm quite conscious, if we do have anyone listening that have never used Twickets before, let's say they want to get tickets to a sold-out gig such as Bob Dylan and Neil Young at Hyde Park here in the UK next summer, can you just walk them through how to get the most out of using Twickets and what to expect?
Sure. So we have an app and we have a website, and on either of those two platforms, the buyer of or the prospective buyer of a ticket can track an event they're looking for. They can set up an alert in case they're not able to constantly check. That alert will notify them when a ticket is listed on our platform, and at that point they're able to purchase the ticket from us at the original face value and a small booking fee. And I should also stress that our booking fees are in line with what you would pay normally at the box office, or we would normally buy if you're paying for your ticket directly from the venue or the event, not the inflated fee that you would pay on the secondary market. So it's quite a simple process. It's the same as any other standard ticket purchasing process through the app or through the website. The ticket is then delivered to you by the seller of that ticket, the holder of the original ticket, and they'll deliver that to you, generally speaking, by post. But also we have a drop and collect service with various retail outlets as well. So in some cases, in some territory, you're able to pick up your ticket from a retail outlet as well.
You have a truly impressive background in both digital and music industries, and launched Twickets after successfully launching and selling 2 companies. So what advice would you give to a startup founder or a business leader that's listening to this podcast today about the biggest lessons that you've learned on your startup journey?
Well, I suppose that the biggest lesson I've learned is keeping things simple and evolving your idea over time. I think that trying to get everything right at the onset is very difficult and will often lead to problems. So I've always, in my businesses, tried to look at the core thing I'm looking to achieve and really push that home and focus, remain totally focused on that one idea. Clearly that idea will evolve over time because you're not always going to get that idea right first off. But it will evolve through testing, learning, and adapting that idea. And I think the other thing is to try and keep your costs as low as possible. So don't go in having raised thousands or tens of thousands of dollars trying to change the world overnight. I think try and evolve your idea, keep your costs low, try and fund it yourself, and therefore stay in control of that business. In time, obviously, you will potentially have to finance your growth. And at that point, I think the sensible thing to do is to look for investors that can add value to your business rather than just providing the money. But more often than not, I think you can achieve a huge amount by funding it yourself and keeping things truly on track and focused on the original. Don't be afraid of employing people when you get to that stage that can do their job better than you can, because I think that often puts people off, that you employ smarter people than yourself. I think it's critical to build a team around you that are experts in what they do.
So what are your biggest objectives for Twickets in 2019? Is there anything else you can share with us today about that vision?
Yeah, I think that the missions remain the same, really, that we're looking to expand both geographically and in terms of the categories that we will support through our service. So geographically, we're looking at extending further into Europe, possibly into South America as well as North America this year. And in terms of categories, we're looking at adding travel inventory to our platform as well. So not only will you be looking to sell gig tickets or festival tickets or theatre tickets, but we'd also like to provide the opportunity for users to be able to sell unwanted hotel rooms or unwanted flights now. So those will be the 2 key areas that we'll be focusing on next year.
So can you remind the listeners of where they can find you guys online, how they can download the app, and also if they've got any questions about anything that we've talked about today, what's the best way of reaching out to you guys?
We can be found on www.twickets.live. We can be contacted on Twitter at Twickets, and you can contact anyone on the team by emailing info@twickets.live.
I think everyone listening will have experienced missing out on tickets to see their favourite band or their favourite artist because of ticket touts who use bots to hoover up all the tickets and then sell them at extortionate prices. And I love how you're really making a difference and solving this problem. And more than anything, the fans love it. It's better for the event itself, and the artists themselves are supporting you too. So I think it's a great example of how you're using technology to bring people together and solve real problems. So a big thank you for sharing your story of Twickets with me today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Now, before we started recording the podcast today, Richard was telling me how they were also working with Premier League football clubs and solving the same problems with ticketing there. And I also discovered he was a West Ham fan, and me being a Derby County fan, we found a mutual respect for Frank Lampard too. But I digress. If you haven't tried Twickets, and you have recently missed out on going to see your favourite artist or band, check it out. And it's also a very cool way of grabbing some last-minute tickets too from people that just can't make a gig, so put it on Twickets to give somebody else the opportunity of going. But this got me thinking as well. Everybody listening, I've got people listening in 165 different countries. Which band, act or artists that's alive, dead or split up would you love to go and see if you had the opportunity? I'd love to find out more and delve into your musical taste, so please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. So tell me about which act you would love to see, who's been your favourite act that you've ever seen, or also tell me about your experiences with Twickets, both good and bad. But in the words of Hall & Oates, you're out of touch and I'm out of time. So I'll return again tomorrow with another great guest. So a big thank you from me for listening to this podcast. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.